Let me ask you a question. What if the price we pay for wisdom is just too high? The Iranian cleric Hasan Aghamiri poses this really fundamental challenge. Are we learning life's most important lessons in the most brutal way possible? And he makes us wonder, is there a better path than the one we've paved with so much violence?
This sentence right here, this is the heart of his entire argument. He's saying that as a global society, we are paying this outrageous price for wisdom. He believes the lessons we desperately need to learn about empathy, about justice, about just living together. We could get those from books, from art, from talking to each other. But instead, it seems like we insist on learning them through bloodshed over and over again.
And to make this feel real, not just like a philosophical idea, he points to the Iran-Iraq War. Over 240,000 Iranians died, hundreds of thousands of Iraqis too. Now for Aghamiri, that's not just some historical statistic. It's a sea of blood. It is an immense, unthinkable cost for lessons he is convinced could have been learned another way. And that's just one war out of so many.
So to dig into the internal cost of violence, what it does to us, even when it feels totally justified, Aghamiri tells this deeply personal story. It's about a dream that completely shook him to his core.
He sets this incredibly stark scene. In his dream, he sees these two little kids, a girl and her younger brother, and they're about to be murdered. The threat is right there, it's happening now, and he's the only one who can do anything about it. It's that classic hero setup, right?
So he does exactly what you'd think the hero would do. He grabs a weapon, and he takes out 7 or 8 of the attackers. He stops the threat, the children are safe, they get away, mission accomplished.
But here's the twist. Instead of feeling relief or pride or heroism, he's just hit with this massive, overwhelming wave of guilt. He can't stop asking himself, why did you kill them? Couldn't we have just run away? Why did killing have to be the answer? Even though these guys were the villains, the act of taking a human life left this deep, psychological wound on him.
And this question, this is really the whole point. What Aghamiri is getting at is that the act of violence itself, of taking another human life, it fundamentally damages us, no matter how good the reason seems. It shows that even when we are 100% sure we're on the side of right, violence itself carries this poison that we just can't escape.
Okay, so if violence messes us up, even when we're the quote-unquote good guys, then how are we supposed to think about our enemies? Well, this leads to a really radical shift in perspective from Aghamiri. He says we have to stop seeing our opponents as just obstacles to be destroyed and start seeing them as human beings with the potential for incredible change.
So on this slide, you can see these two worldviews side by side. Aghamiri brings up the historical figure of Hur from the Battle of Karbala, which is a foundational story in Shia Islam. Now, Hur was an enemy commander. Right up until the very last minute, he was the antagonist. But then, he switched sides. He had this profound redemption. And Aghamiri asks, what if he'd been killed the day before? That amazing story of redemption would have been completely lost. The big takeaway here is that every enemy holds the potential for transformation, a potential that violence extinguishes forever.
And this isn't just some abstract theory for him. He tells the story of an Iranian soldier from the Iran-Iraq War who wrote something absolutely extraordinary in his will. He wrote a message to his killer, the Iraqi soldier who would eventually take his life. And he said, on the day of judgment, I will search for you, but not for revenge. He said, I'll search for you to intercede for you, to ask God for your forgiveness. I mean, that is a level of radical empathy that just completely turns our whole idea of justice on its head.
But let's be real. Can this kind of empathy actually work on a huge political scale? I mean, when the stakes involve an entire nation? Aghamiri says yes, absolutely. And he points to one of the most powerful examples from the 20th century, Nelson Mandela.
23 years. Nelson Mandela was imprisoned for 23 years by the racist apartheid government in South Africa. He went through unimaginable hardship, all while his people were suffering under this brutal, hateful system.
So when Mandela was finally released and came to power, he faced this enormous question. The easy answer, the one a lot of people wanted, was revenge. It was time to punish their former oppressors. But Mandela knew that would just start the cycle of violence all over again.
And this was Mandela's genius insight. He understood that the system of hate didn't just lock him up, it also imprisoned his jailer. They were both trapped in it. And to be truly free, to break the whole system, he realized the only key was forgiveness, not as some sign of weakness, but as a revolutionary strategy.
Mandela's path, it reveals this really profound strategy. See, he got that if he sought revenge, he would just become the new jailer, trapping everyone in that same hateful cycle. Forgiveness wasn't about pretending the past didn't happen. No, it was a practical, strategic tool to build a future. By dismantling the prison of hate for everyone, and that includes his former enemies, he created the only possible way forward for a new South Africa.
And this is where Aghamiri brings these huge historical examples right back down to us, to our own lives, our own beliefs. He challenges his listeners to really look at the gap between the mercy we ask for and the mercy we're actually willing to give.
He takes a common prayer that's recited during Ramadan. People pray for God to enrich the poor, free the captives, and heal the sick. But Aghamiri asks, what if we actually meant it? What if we took that seriously? Enriching the poor doesn't just mean handing out money. It means creating jobs, building economic systems where charity isn't even needed. And freeing captives isn't just about opening jail cells. It's about asking if prison is really the best way we have to reform people, or if we need to find a new path, just like Mandela did.
And so we land here, at the final challenge. You know, it's easy to ask for compassion from a higher power. It is so much harder to practice it ourselves, especially with people who have wronged us. Aghamiri's entire message really boils down to this. If we want a world without prisons, without war, without these endless, exhausting cycles of revenge, then we have to be the ones willing to do the hard, uncomfortable work of forgiveness. We have to be the ones to break the cycle. The real question is, are we?